Welcome back, everybody, to the deep dive.
Yeah.
This time we're tackling
Oh, boy.
Dr. Jordan Peterson's Maps of Meaning lecture.
Yeah, a big one.
It's a real journey, this one,
It is.
through psychology narrative and those parts of life we'd rather avoid.
Absolutely.
The unknown.
The unknown.
So you've got your notes, you've got your highlights, and luckily you've got us
Right.
to try to help make sense of it all.
Here to help.
You bet. For someone diving into Peterson for the first time,
Yeah.
what's the core concept of Maps of Meaning? What's he all about?
Well, Maps of Meaning is really Peterson's exploration of how we create meaning in a world that often feels chaotic and unpredictable.
Okay.
And
So how do we do that?
he argues we use stories, myths, and narratives to make sense of our experiences and to guide our actions.
So it's like
Oh, God.
we're trying to create a roadmap for navigating life,
Absolutely.
using those ancient stories as our compass.
Yeah, you could think about it that way, like a map or a compass. And he starts with something surprisingly practical.
Okay, I like practical. What's that?
Autobiographical writing.
Oh.
He suggests that writing our life story can be like therapy, helping us understand and integrate past experiences and reduce stress.
Okay, so it's not just journaling our day. It's about really digging into those.
It is.
Like formative experiences.
Yeah.
Why does he believe this is so powerful? Is it just about venting, or is there something more at play?
Well, I think it is more than just venting. Peterson believes that by articulating our experiences, we're not only processing them, but also shaping our understanding of ourselves.
Okay.
He calls this sharpening up the representation of our lives.
I like that.
Yeah. The more clearly defined our narratives are,
Yeah.
the less internal conflict we experience.
Okay, so it's like taking those jumbled puzzle pieces of memory and putting them together to create a clearer picture.
Right.
But then he takes this idea a step further.
Right.
He introduces the concept of future authoring,
Right.
which seems almost like the opposite of dwelling on the past.
It does.
So how do those two connect?
Well, he argues that just as we can use writing to understand our past, we can use it to shape our future.
Oh, interesting.
So it's about actively envisioning and planning for a fulfilling future.
So instead of letting life just happen to us, we're taking control and saying, this is where I want to go and this is how I'm going to get there.
Yeah.
But he stresses the importance of realistic goals.
Absolutely.
Right, not just pie in the sky dreaming.
Yeah, not just dreaming. It's about creating a future that aligns with our values but is also achievable. And what's fascinating is that Peterson actually has data to back up the effectiveness of future authoring.
Oh, really?
Yeah, his team used this approach with students, and it significantly improved their academic performance.
That's really interesting. It suggests that the act of articulating our desired future can have a real impact on our behavior. But I'm curious, why does this work? Is it about self-fulfilling prophecy, or is there something else going on?
I think it's likely a combination of factors. By writing down our goals and the steps we need to take to achieve them, we're essentially creating a roadmap for ourselves, and this increases our focus and motivation, making us more likely to actually take those steps and achieve those goals.
So it's not just about wishing for something. It's about making a plan and holding ourselves accountable. That makes a lot of sense. But Peterson doesn't just focus on the positive, does he? He also encourages us to confront our negative potential,
Right.
the pitfalls we might encounter if we don't stay on track.
Yeah.
Isn't focusing on the negative a bit counterproductive?
Well, Peterson believes that by facing those potential negative outcomes head on, we actually become more motivated to take action.
Okay.
It's a bit like having a carrot and a stick.
Yeah.
We have something to move towards, but also something to avoid.
Okay, so it's about understanding the stakes.
Yeah,
About recognizing that our choices have consequences.
absolutely.
It adds a sense of urgency to our decision-making.
Right.
And then he introduces this children's story about a boy and a dragon.
Yeah.
It seems like a bit of a left turn, but I'm guessing there's a deeper meaning here. What's the dragon all about?
Well, the dragon story is central to Maps of Meaning. It's Peterson's way of illustrating how we deal with the unknown,
Right.
the things that lie outside our comfort zones, and the anxieties that can arise from those encounters.
So the dragon represents those things we'd rather not deal with, those nagging problems or anxieties that we tend to push aside. And Peterson suggests that ignoring these dragons can actually make them worse.
That's exactly right.
Right. Just like the dragon in the story grows larger, the more the boy ignores it.
Yeah.
So he's saying,
He argues that those unresolved issues can fester and become much bigger problems if we don't address them head on.
yeah.
He even compares those ignored issues to a small bill that gets thrown away, but keeps accumulating interest until it becomes a major financial burden. It brings the concept down to a level we can all relate to.
Yeah, we've all experienced that feeling of letting something small slip until it becomes a much larger problem. So the takeaway is that we need to acknowledge those dragons, those anxieties,
Yes.
those uncomfortable truths, even if we'd rather pretend they don't exist.
Exactly. Peterson argues that by confronting these things head on,
Yeah.
we gain a sense of agency and control over our lives.
So it's not about denying the existence of these dragons. It's about choosing how we engage with them. And he even compares those who successfully overcome anxiety disorders, like agoraphobia, to the boy confronting the dragon.
Right.
They don't see the world as less dangerous. They just learn to be more courageous in the face of those dangers.
That's a key insight. It suggests that courage isn't the absence of fear, but the ability to act despite it.
Right.
Peterson seems to be highlighting this shift in perspective, viewing those dragons not as insurmountable obstacles, but as opportunities for growth and development.
I like that. I'm starting to see how this ties into his emphasis on truth and meaning. He talks about Dostoevsky's idea that if there is no God, everything is permitted. It seems pretty heavy for a lecture about dragons.
Yeah.
But where does that fit in?
Well, it's Peterson grappling with the question of morality.
Right.
Why bother being good? Especially if there are no guaranteed rewards or punishments. He suggests that perhaps living truthfully, acting in alignment with our values, leads to a more fulfilling life.
Okay.
Regardless of any ultimate judgment.
So it's not about following rules out of fear.
Right.
But about living in a way that feels authentic and meaningful.
Exactly.
Which brings us to his point about paying attention to the words we use and how they make us feel.
Oh, yeah. This is a good one.
So what's he getting at there?
Well, Peterson highlights the power of language. He suggests that our words can shape our reality, influencing how we perceive ourselves in the world. He even encourages a little experiment. Pay attention to what you say and how it makes you feel. Do certain words make you feel stronger, more grounded, while others make you feel weak or insecure?
I love that. It's such a simple exercise, but it really makes you think about the impact of our language.
Right.
Are we speaking from a place of strength and truth or betraying underlying fears?
Exactly. And he cautions against using language to manipulate or deceive, arguing that this weakens us and undermines our sense of self.
So it's about
aligning our words with our actions and values.
Right. That makes sense. He also talks about the danger of becoming possessed by ideologies, surrendering our critical thinking to rigid systems of belief.
Yeah.
I think this ties into his idea of the optimal dragon size.
It does. Well, he suggests that we need a certain amount of challenge to thrive. If the dragon is too small, we get bored and complacent. If it's too large, we become overwhelmed and give up. It's about finding that sweet spot.
Oh, okay.
Where we're stretched but not broken.
But how do we know what size dragon is right for us? Couldn't this lead to self-sabotage, constantly seeking out bigger and bigger dragons until we're in over our heads?
Yeah, it's a delicate balance, and one that requires self-awareness and honesty. Peterson believes that our nervous systems are actually wired to seek out these optimally sized dragons.
Oh, wow.
But it's up to us to be discerning. And to choose challenges that are both meaningful and manageable.
He even compares the optimal dragon size to cognitive tasks.
Yeah.
Suggesting that we're most engaged when faced with challenges that are just difficult enough to stretch our abilities.
Think about it. We get bored with tasks that are too easy.
Right.
And frustrated with those that are too hard.
Yeah.
It's that middle ground where we experience flow, that state of complete absorption and engagement.
I've definitely experienced that. And then he takes the dragon analogy even further, suggesting it can represent the unknown, the potential that lies beyond our current understanding.
Right. This is where Maps of Meaning starts to explore the nature of reality itself. Peterson proposes that potential. The possibility of what could be is as fundamental as matter.
So it's not just about overcoming personal challenges.
Right.
But about confronting the vast unknown that lies beyond our comprehension. And he brings a pretty intense example, the 9/11 attacks.
Right. He describes those attacks as an event so unexpected and terrifying that it shook our sense of reality. It highlights how the unknown can be both a source of danger and a catalyst for growth.
Those unexpected events, those moments that shatter our assumptions, force us to re-examine our beliefs.
Absolutely.
And expand our understanding of the world. And he even suggests that the parts of our brains evolved to detect predators might have been repurposed to help us navigate the complexities of social life.
Yeah. It's fascinating to think that our capacity for fear and anxiety, those primal instincts, might now be helping us navigate relationships and social hierarchies.
Which brings us back to the importance of paying attention.
Yes.
He argues that it's more than just thinking. It's about being present and observing without judgment.
He distinguishes between paying attention and thinking. Paying attention is primal, fundamental. Being present and observing without judgment. Thinking is more about analyzing and interpreting based on existing knowledge and beliefs.
So paying attention is about being open to new information, experiencing the world as it is, without trying to force it into our pre-existing mental models. Right. He compares it to listening to someone with very different beliefs than our own. Instead of arguing, what if we simply listened with an open mind?
That's where the real learning happens, stepping outside of our echo chambers and allowing ourselves to be challenged by different perspectives.
And he even suggests that by acknowledging our areas of ignorance, we become more powerful and effective in the world. It's counterintuitive, but how does that work?
Well, he argues that this humility, this willingness to admit what we don't know, opens us up to learning and growth. It allows us to see the world with fresh eyes.
It's about embracing the unknown, accepting that there will always be things we don't understand, and using that as a springboard for exploration.
He compares paying attention to a form of existential faith.
I'm intrigued by that. Is he saying we need to have faith in the unknown?
Well, it's not about blindly believing in something unseen. It's about trusting the process of observation and attention. Having faith that it will lead us toward something meaningful. A faith grounded in experience, in engaging with the world as it is, rather than how we wish it to be.
That's a beautiful way to think about it. He also brings up the ancient Egyptian god Horus, often depicted as a single eye. What's the connection there?
Well, it highlights how the ancients recognized the power of attention, the importance of perception. They saw it as a divine attribute, a quality that could elevate humans to higher understanding.
He even suggests that attention might be more powerful than thinking.
Yeah.
This is a bold statement, but what does he mean by that?
Well, it seems he's arguing that by cultivating our capacity for attention, we can access a deeper level of understanding, a more intuitive way of knowing the world. It's about moving beyond our rational minds and tapping into something more primal and intuitive.
I like that. He then encourages another experiment, paying attention to what we say and how it makes us feel.
Oh, yeah.
Do certain words make us feel stronger, more grounded, while others make us feel weak or insecure?
Yeah, it's about self-awareness and the power of language. He reminds us that language isn't just communication, it's creation. The words we choose and the stories we tell contribute to the reality we experience. He cautions against manipulation and deceit, arguing that authenticity and integrity are key.
And he again warns about becoming possessed by ideologies, surrendering our critical thinking to rigid beliefs.
Yes, very similar to that optimal dragon size idea.
Right. But then he shifts gears and talks about something that seems completely unrelated, the challenges of feeding children.
Oh, yeah.
What's that all about?
Well, it might seem like a strange jump, but it ties back to his points about dragons and confronting difficult situations.
Yeah.
He talks about mealtimes becoming battlegrounds, especially with young children asserting their independence.
Yeah, parents struggle to balance nurturing with setting limits and enforcing rules.
And he even shares a personal anecdote about a stubborn child refusing to eat.
Really?
What happened? Well, it's classic Peterson using personal experience to illustrate broader principles. He saw the child's refusal to eat as a missed opportunity for the child to develop a healthy relationship with food.
So it goes back to confronting challenges, even when it's easier to give in.
Exactly. And he actually helped the child eat by reinforcing positive behaviors, setting clear boundaries and expectations.
So what's the takeaway there?
Well, I think it highlights the power of positive reinforcement, of recognizing and rewarding desired behaviors, even when they're small and inconsistent at first. It's also about the importance of structure and order for children. Knowing what's expected helps them feel safe and secure.
And then he ties it back to the dragon analogy, right?
He does. He suggests the child's refusal to eat was a small dragon allowed to grow unchecked.
By confronting the challenge, refusing to give in, they shrunk that dragon down to size.
Exactly.
I love how he brings it full circle. He also highlights the emotional impact, describing how the child's demeanor transformed once he finally ate. It shows how even small successes can have a profound impact on our well-being.
He then connects this back to the broader theme, suggesting we all have dragons we might be tempted to ignore or deny.
Right, so he's urging us to learn from the story of the child, recognize those challenges in our own lives, and confront them with courage and determination.
And he even suggests that facing those challenges can lead to unexpected rewards and a deeper sense of meaning and purpose.
And he doesn't just stop at personal dragons. He compares them to larger societal dragons, suggesting the same principles apply.
Right, ignoring those societal challenges, those systemic issues will only make them worse. We need to be willing to face them head on, engage in difficult conversations, challenge the status quo, and work towards a better future.
It's a call to action, reminding us that we have a responsibility to engage, to speak truth to power, and to work towards a more just and equitable society.
He also touches on the importance of ritual and tradition, suggesting they provide structure and meaning in a world that can feel chaotic and unpredictable.
It connects to his earlier point about order and predictability, especially for children. Rituals mark transitions, connect us to our heritage, and create continuity across generations. He even suggests that the decline of these traditions in modern society might be contributing to a sense of meaninglessness and enemy.
It's an interesting thought. Could the loss of those shared rituals and traditions be contributing to isolation and alienation?
He then returns to the importance of language, arguing that the words we use have a profound impact on how we perceive ourselves and the world.
It's a recurring theme in Peterson's work. He sees language as a powerful tool capable of both good and evil.
He encourages us to pay attention to the words we use, to choose them carefully, and to speak with integrity and authenticity.
Our language isn't just conveying information, it's shaping reality, creating the world we want to live in.
He also cautions against misuse, highlighting how propaganda and manipulation can distort reality and control minds. This is particularly relevant today with the constant bombardment of information designed to influence our thinking.
It's about developing media literacy, distinguishing between fact and fiction, and recognizing bias.
He also talks about the power of storytelling, how stories can help us make sense of the world, connect with others, and inspire us to live more meaningful lives.
Peterson sees stories as more than just entertainment. He believes they have a profound psychological and spiritual significance.
He argues that the great myths and legends passed down through generations contain profound truths about the human condition.
They teach us about good and evil, the challenges and triumphs of life, and the possibilities for transformation and redemption.
He even suggests that these stories can guide us through life's complexities, offering wisdom and insight for better choices and a more fulfilling life. Which brings us to his point about developing a strong sense of self.
Right, it's about knowing who we are, what we stand for, and what we're willing to fight for.
He argues that a strong sense of self is the foundation for making difficult choices, resisting temptation, and living a life of meaning and purpose. But it's not easy, especially in a world that often pressures us to conform.
This is especially true for young people today, constantly bombarded with messages about who they should be and how they should live.
He encourages us to resist those pressures, to be true to ourselves, and create our own definition of success and fulfillment.
It's about finding our unique path, living authentically, rather than fitting into someone else's mold. He even compares this process to the hero's journey in mythology.
It's a fascinating analogy. The hero faces challenges, overcomes obstacles, and emerges transformed and empowered. Our lives can be seen as our own hero's journey, requiring us to confront fears, embrace the unknown, and claim our power and potential.
It's a reminder that life isn't always easy, but those challenges can make us stronger, wiser, and more compassionate.
Which brings us to the importance of finding meaning and purpose in our lives.
Yeah, he argues that without meaning and purpose, we're more likely to feel lost adrift and disconnected.
It's about finding something bigger than ourselves, something that gives our lives direction.
He suggests connecting with nature, creative pursuits, contributing to our communities, and spiritual practices.
It's about those activities and experiences that bring us joy, make us feel alive, and connect us to something larger than ourselves.
Finding meaning and purpose is an ongoing process, a journey of exploration and discovery.
It's about being open to new experiences and ways of being in the world.
It's about experimenting, trying new things, stepping outside our comfort zones, and seeing where life takes us.
He even suggests that those dragons we encounter can help us find that meaning and purpose. It's a powerful idea, isn't it? Those challenges and obstacles we try to avoid might actually lead us to our greatest triumphs.
He argues that by engaging with life's challenges, we discover hidden strengths, cultivate resilience, and create a more meaningful and fulfilling life.
It's a reminder that growth happens outside of our comfort zones in those moments when we're stretched and challenged.
He encourages us to embrace those challenges, to see them as opportunities, and to trust that we have the strength and resilience to overcome them.
It's a message of hope, a reminder that we're not alone, and that even in the darkest times, there's potential for growth, healing, and a deeper connection.
He then shifts gears and talks about the importance of paying attention, arguing that it's one of the most powerful tools we have for navigating life's complexities.
He distinguishes between paying attention and thinking, arguing that while thinking is important, it's often secondary to paying attention. Can you elaborate on that a bit? What's the difference between paying attention and thinking in this context?
It seems like he's suggesting that paying attention is a more primal, more fundamental process. It's about being present in the moment, observing what's happening around us without judgment or preconceived notions. Thinking, on the other hand, is often more about analyzing and interpreting what we're observing, trying to make sense of it based on our existing knowledge and beliefs.
So paying attention is about being open to new information, to experiencing the world as it is, without trying to force it into our pre-existing mental models.
Exactly. It's about letting go of our assumptions and biases, even if just for a moment, and simply observing what's happening around us. And Peterson argues that this kind of open, non-judgmental attention can lead to surprising insights and discoveries.
He uses the analogy of listening to someone who has very different beliefs than our own. Instead of immediately arguing or trying to prove them wrong, what if we simply listened with an open mind?
That's where the real learning happens, isn't it? When we step outside of our own echo chambers and allow ourselves to be challenged by different perspectives.
He even suggests that by paying attention to the things we don't know, by acknowledging our areas of ignorance, we can become more powerful and effective in the world.
It's a counterintuitive idea, isn't it, to think that acknowledging our limitations could actually be a source of strength.
He argues that this kind of humility, this willingness to admit what we don't know, opens us up to learning and growth. It allows us to see the world with fresh eyes, to notice things we might have otherwise overlooked.
It's about embracing the unknown, about accepting that there will always be things we don't understand, and using that realization as a springboard for further exploration and discovery.
He even compares paying attention to a form of existential faith.
This is where Peterson's analysis gets really interesting. He seems to be suggesting that by choosing to pay attention, by choosing to confront the world as it is, we're making a kind of leap of faith. We're trusting that the process of observation, of careful attention, will ultimately lead us towards something meaningful and valuable.
The different way of thinking about faith, isn't it? It's not about blindly believing in something we can't see or prove. It's about trusting the process of exploration and discovery, even when it leads us into unfamiliar and potentially uncomfortable territory.
Exactly. It's a faith grounded in experience in the act of engaging with the world as it is rather than as we wish it to be. And Peterson seems to be suggesting that this kind of faith, this willingness to confront the unknown with open eyes and an open mind, can be incredibly rewarding.
That's a really powerful way to think about it. He also makes a fascinating connection between paying attention and the ancient Egyptian god Horus, who was often depicted as a single eye.
Right. It highlights the idea that the ancients recognized the power of attention, the importance of observation and perception. They saw it as a divine attribute, a quality that could elevate humans to a higher level of understanding.
He even suggests that attention, this capacity to observe and perceive, might be more powerful than thinking.
That's a bold statement, isn't it, to suggest that our ability to simply pay attention, to notice what's happening around us, might be more important than our ability to analyze and interpret that information.
It seems like he's arguing that by cultivating our capacity for attention, we can access a deeper level of understanding, a more intuitive and embodied way of knowing the world.
It's about moving beyond the limitations of our rational minds and tapping into a more primal, more intuitive way of being.
He then encourages listeners to try a little experiment. Pay attention to what they say and how it makes them feel. Notice if certain words or phrases make them feel stronger and more grounded, while others make them feel weak or insecure.
It's an intriguing concept, isn't it? Are we speaking from a place of strength and truth? Or are our words betraying an underlying fear or insecurity? It's a powerful exercise in self-awareness.
He even suggests that the words we use can shape our reality, that they have a power to influence how we perceive ourselves and the world around us.
It's a reminder that our language isn't just a tool for communication, it's also a tool for creation. The words we choose, the stories we tell, they all contribute to the reality we experience.
He cautions against using language to manipulate or deceive, arguing that this kind of inauthenticity can ultimately weaken us and undermine our sense of self.
It's about speaking from a place of integrity, about aligning our words with our actions and our values.
Wow, we've covered so much ground in this deep dive, from the power of writing and future authoring to confronting those metaphorical dragons to the importance of paying attention and living truthfully.
It's been a real journey.
It really has any final thoughts for our listener to really chew on?
I think what stands out most is Peterson's call to conscious living. He challenges us to be awake, to pay attention to our thoughts, our words, and our actions, and to strive to live a life of meaning and purpose.
He reminds us that we are the authors of our own stories and that we have the power to create a better future for ourselves and for the world around us.
It's an inspiring message, and one that I think is particularly relevant in today's world.
Absolutely. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into Dr. Jordan Peterson's Maps of Meaning lecture. Remember, knowledge is power, and facing those metaphorical dragons is what ultimately leads to growth and transformation.
Until next time, keep diving.